of Monday, November 10th, 2025, and thank you for joining. I'm Andrew Leonard, the Mayor of Bowen Island and the Chair of this meeting. I'd like to introduce the other elected members of Bowen's Council, as I always do. Beginning on my far right, we have Councillor Alex Jurgensen. To his left is Councillor and Islands Trustee Sue Ellen Fast. My far left is Councillor John Saunders. To his right is Councillor Ken Lake. And to his right is Councillor Allison Morse. Joining us online today, which you may see in the background, is Councillor and Islands Trustee Judy Getty. I'd also like to introduce the members of our professional staff who are joining us here today, including our Chief Administrative Officer, Pierre Dillon, and our Corporate Officer, Sophie Insignia, as well as other members of our staff who may be presenting reports here, agenda items this afternoon. This meeting is being recorded, and the members of the public speak during the question and answer and public comment portion of the meeting. Your presence and voice will be included in the permanent recording, which will be available at bowenmunicipality.ca, and it's also available in perpetuity on our YouTube channel, where it is streaming live to the masses now. This council meeting is an official forum for the conducting of the business of local government. We all love our community. We are all passionate about what happens here. We encourage everyone to maintain a constructive and respectful tone and to direct comments during the public comment and question and answer portion of the meeting to myself. For those following along in the room or online, or at a later time, the agenda and full council package meeting for this afternoon is available at bowenislandmunicipality.ca, including all of the staff reports. With that, I will look to our corporate officer for the introduction of any late items today.
There's just one on-table item in the agenda today. That's an attachment to the staff report in item 8.1, which was circulated by email.
Okay. With that, can I have a motion to adopt the agenda? Moved by Councillor Jurgensen, seconded by Councillor Wake. Any discussion, changes, amendments? Not seeing any. I'll call the question. All in favor, raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? And that carries unanimously. Moving on to our public comment portion of the meeting, I'll look to our corporate officer for any public comments here today.
Just one this afternoon.
Okay.
Taylor.
Okay, Mr. Taylor, you've joined us here before.
Yes, I have.
The routine and the drill, so you have 3 minutes to make your public.
Do you need me to sit there or can I sit here?
Yes, just at the front, because it's close to the microphones for people that are.
I'm here as a local resident talking in support of 2 of the letters that are on the agenda. The one related to the coastal marine strategy and the other one related to correspondence with the Department of Fisheries and Oceans. I will try to stick around while you're discussing it, but I have a 2 o'clock brief call to make, so I might miss it. So basically, I just wanted to say that it is important, especially today in the current climate of changes to funding to DFO, the fact that the provincial government is looking at the marine areas, that local and regional governments that express interest in the ocean surrounding them will carry a lot of weight in that some of the focus federally may be moving because of available staff power. So I think supporting local initiatives with input from local people and local groups is very important. So I just wanted to encourage council to support both of those letters, and I will try to stick around to answer any specific questions you might have related to them when the topic comes up. So I just wanted to get that off my plate because I might, side talking on the phone. Okay, thank you.
Thanks so much for being here today. And that concludes our public comments portion of the meeting. We'll move on to section 3, delegations 3.1. We have Owen Plowman from the Bowen Island Conservancy joining us here today regarding the annual report. So,
good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. And I'm going to share my screen and hope that this works. Can I share my screen?
Button at the bottom.
Yeah, it's I click that and set share screen. There we go. Okay. Nothing is showing yet. There we are. So I'm here to talk about the memorandum of understanding between the municipality and the Bowen Island Conservancy, of which I'm president. And part of the memorandum of understanding says that I should provide an annual update, and usually that's in October. I'm a bit late, sorry about that. I had cataract surgery on both eyes this summer, and I also had a month's vacation between the cataract surgery, so I was away most of October. Anyway, here we are, and I'm not wearing glasses. It's fantastic. There are a couple of things to do. First of all, I need to thank everybody here for providing a grant for a bike with the Wild Coast Nature Refuge. Bike rack is installed. We are very grateful for the money that you gave us for that last year. We actually did not use all of the grant money because we found a supplier of bike racks which was able to give us a very good price. So we will use the remainder of the grant money for another bike rack somewhere else in the lands that we've got at Cape Roger Curtis. The second thing to thank you for is the grant that you gave us a couple of years ago for our book, Discovering Quailicum, which is all about Deed Bay and its history. And when I came last year to give the update, this was not published. It was published in November, and I gave the update in October, but this is now out, and I'd like to present this to you for a copy, to have a copy at Municipal Hall so that people can read it when they're waiting for meetings or whatever. So thank you very much. This has been a bestseller, and it's very informative and interesting. So thanks. We really appreciate your support. I did this last year, but I think it's worth repeating because it's a year ago. I think it's a reasonable idea to give you some background on the MOU. We signed it in September 2024 for an initial 5-year period. And the MOU establishes a framework for cooperation and collaboration related to conservation on the island and surrounding waters. And so I'm giving you the annual update. What the MOU really says in terms of specifics is that we will collaborate around issues like conservation covenants, developing and managing conservation lands, stewardship of municipal parklands and island trail networks when requested, subdivision and rezoning applications when requested, property tax exemption issues, I'll talk about that in a second, and support for a strategic conservation assessment of Bowen Island, which we are working on and have been working on for a couple of years now. So what's been going on? There are a couple of slides on this. In terms of covenants, it's worthwhile mentioning that we're in the process of consolidating our covenants on both the Wild Coast Nature Refuge, which is 3 lots on the coast of Cape Roger Curtis that we bought in October 2020, and the other conservancy lands at Cape Roger Curtis, which we purchased at the end of October last year. That's another 16 lots. So rather than have covenant on one piece of land and a covenant on the other piece of land, and there's a covenant on the lands that were formerly owned by Metro Vancouver, in favor of Metro Vancouver, we have consolidated the covenants. So both sets of covenants apply to all the lands now, and we're grateful to help from Daniel Martin in your planning department for his assistance with that. So there's one big covenant held in favor of the municipality, and there's another big covenant held in favor of Metro Vancouver, and they're identical, basically in the So that's very good for us. In terms of developing and managing our conservation lands, we haven't done anything related to that because we have been conducting an ecological assessment of what we bought, the lands that we acquired from Metro Vancouver, and we've been waiting for that assessment to be completed, and then there'll be a management plan that comes out, and then we'll probably come and have some discussions with people here. The management plan is expected to come out in January, February. We just got the ecological assessment at the end of October, so it's sitting on my desk. I haven't even read it yet. It's 70 pages long. We'll probably have discussions about what to do, and I have a slide which talks about that. In terms of stewardship of municipal parklands and island trail networks, there's no activities related to that or for subdivision and rezoning applications. I recall that we did a couple of responses to requests in 2024, but there hasn't been anything in 2025. We're very grateful for the property tax relief that we gained from you on our lands at Cape Roger Curtis. That was done very quickly, and we really are very appreciative of that. We closed the deal on a Friday, and I think the tax exemptions were done by municipal staff on, or the paperwork was brought forward to council the following Monday or so. It was like an express train. So we're extremely grateful for your support. And the strategic conservation assessment that we're doing is what we call our Caring for Nature initiative. It's funded by the Sitka Foundation and the Nipmuc Nook. It's multi-year, started in 2024. We've been liaising with council members Getty and Fast. They're on the steering committee, and work is ongoing. And some of the key factors that we've found so far are addressed in our submission to the OCP steering committee, which was made, I think, in June or July. They're really concerned with issues like water availability and quality and development outcomes and et cetera. And those, I guess, are under consideration. Outlook for next year, we propose to rezone the Conservancy land so that instead of whatever it is, 16, 19 lots, there'll be one big lot. And we would like to work with planning to rezone that.
Camping?
Definitely not for camping. No.
Sorry, I couldn't definitely know.
Well, you took the wind out of my sails. We, as I said earlier, we'll probably come back once we have the management plan in place, which will have short, medium, and long-term goals. We'll probably come back and start talking to various people in the municipality about issues around roads, trails, signage, parking, garbage collection. You know, it's to be determined because we have to really flesh out the management plan first, and we haven't done that yet. And we're continuing our strategic conservation assessment, so there'll be ongoing data sharing and discussions with municipal staff. And that's really, you know, we summarize some of the findings in the submission to the OCP steering committee, but really that whole assessment project was started not with the OCP reassessment in mind, but with the objective of sharing what we find with the municipality to help us all move forward together in a way that's constructive for the island. And that's all I have to say. I appreciate your time. If you have any questions, happy to answer them.
All right, Councilor Saunders, followed by Councilor Waker.
Thank you. Thanks for the report. Just through the chair, sorry. Just one question. You mentioned about wanting to rezone for camping, the 19 lots into one. And my recollection is they're not all entirely contiguous, are they? So
They are.
oh, they are.
Yeah.
Okay. My recollection is poor here, so we'll just move on to the next question.
All right, Councilor Rick.
Thank you, through the chair. We have an application today that involves an increase, it involves a retaining wall right on the ocean and an application for an increase in height. And I understand, I know little about it, but the Green Shores Initiative has quite a bit to say about that. And I just wonder if there's going to be any relationship with you and the application of Green Shores on Bowen.
We probably 6 or 7 years ago, we actually had somebody on the island who was part of the Green Shores Initiative come and speak at one of our public events. I don't know about this specific initiative. We are happy to collaborate with them, and you know, we are in close contact with the person who was part of the Green Shores Initiative. So, in fact, we're meeting her tonight. We have a board meeting, and she's coming to talk for a little while. So we'll probably hear some more about it.
Yeah, I'm not sure they even know about it yet, but
Oh, okay.
thank you.
Councilor Ferguson.
My original question was about the continuosity of the lots, but since that's been addressed, opens the door for another question, and that's regarding like rezoning it into one parcel. So that would just be one large continuous parcel that would be 19, the equivalent of the existing 19 lots, but addressable as one big lot. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah.
Whatever the opposite of a subdivision is,
Yes.
amalgamation.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Just a curiosity question, which you probably can't answer at this point. I don't know that you need to do rezoning if you're just consolidating all the lots into one. So it might just be a reverse of the subdivision. But that's a discussion with the planning.
Yeah, and it's probably a discussion with our land acquisition committee. I don't know all the details, but I think if we keep them as separate lots, then we're responsible for individual tax payments on each lot.
Oh, yeah, no, it's not, it's the process. I don't. know
Oh,
how to
okay, yeah.
Rezone in order to consolidate them all. but
That's
it's
above my, it's above my pay grade, but I'll take that.
Consolidation is much simpler than a rezone.
Okay, thank you. Anything else? No?
No, not seeing any further questions. Thank you so much for being here today.
I'll leave this here and you might deal with it as you wish.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Okay, with that completed, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Councilors wishing to pull items from the consent agenda. I will pull 12.4. Councilor Fast,
12.3, please.
Councilor Jurgensen,
Is a confirmation on what 12.4 is currently, given the late item.
12.4 is the letter from Helen Hatchett regarding suspension of the Bowen Island Land Conservancy Partnering Agreement. And covert land expropriation. Councilor Saunders,
4.4.
Councilor Gay,
I had 12.4 as well, but also 12.3 and 12.6, please.
Councilor Fast has already pulled 12.3.
Okay.
Down for 12.6. Okay, and we'll handle these in numerical order unless there's any other items to pull. Not seeing any. So first I'll look for a motion to adopt the consent agenda, please. Moved by Councilor Saunders, seconded by Councilor Jurgensen. Discussion or changes? Not seeing any. I'll call the question. All in favor, raise your hand, say aye.
Aye.
And that carries unanimously. Moving on to items pulled from the consent agenda. 4.4, the 2026 council meeting and acting mayor schedule. Over to Councilor Saunders.
Thank you to the chair. Just looking at the acting mayor schedule, I noticed I'm there for May. I'm gonna be out of the country for the entire, so I'm gonna have to swap with somebody for another one.
Councilor Jurgensen.
Councilor Saunders, would you be able to fill me in on where exactly I am on that one, just to make sure my own knowledge of reading it, I'm reading it correctly?
Does somebody have it open? I don't right now. Or maybe I do.
Over to our corporate officer.
Councilor Jurgensen, you're on the proposed schedule for April and September.
That's what I understood as well. I'd be more than happy to switch Councilor Saunders for April and May.
That works for me. Yeah, thank you. So sorry, you're gonna do May and I'm gonna do April?
That would be my understanding,
Okay.
but I think we just agreed upon.
Okay, just making sure. I wasn't sure if there was a September. That's great. Thank you.
Any further changes to that one? Not seeing any, so Councilor Morrison.
The inaugural council meeting. I understand that is to be swearing in ceremony more than anything else, so. I'm just questioning why we're not doing the swearing in ceremony earlier and then. So that there could actually be a proper council meeting like. For business on the second Monday of the month.
I'll take that as directed to the corporate officer, and then I'll go to Councilor Fast. Over to Councilor David.
So there wasn't really much rationale other than following our usual meeting pattern of the second and fourth Monday of the month. The inaugural council meeting does have to be held before the 10th day in November. But there's a reason that we couldn't hold it on November 2nd. I know the Islands Trust has scheduled their inaugural meeting for the 12th, November 12th. So as long as we have our swearing in ceremony and appointment of Islands trustees before that, then it works. It's just, I was giving a little bit more room to between the election and the inaugural council meeting, just in case there are any things like recounts that might come up, but there is a little bit more time this election cycle between the election itself, first week of November, so I wouldn't see any problem with it earlier.
My reason for asking is that's the very last day, and if there's any issues that come up and you had to cancel for some reason, then we're sort of up to think of that all.
Right, so the suggestion is to do an inaugural meeting on the second,
Yeah.
or like swearing in on the second with the.
Just
meeting of the night.
swearing in and all that, and then have another meeting.
Just want to clarify that. Over to you, Councillor Fest.
I just wanted to ask whether the corporate officer had been in touch with Lions Trust about that schedule. Because there, some years there's been a challenge between, we have to be do the swearing in before Islands Trust can do the swearing in, and then it's also the time of big storms and ferry outages and cancellations of meetings. So making sure there's enough time is what I'd be concerned about. Thank you.
So if I'm reading the room correctly, perhaps there's a motion to amend the schedule with November 2nd as the
I'll make that motion.
inaugural council meeting, followed by November 9th being the first regular council meeting. Okay. Councillor Dickinson.
I believe Councillor Getty was also on the speaker's list.
Oh, my apologies. Sorry, Councillor Getty, over to you.
Okay, I was looking at the September dates and I'm fine with the schedule as it is, but I'm wondering the September UBCM is the 14th to the 18th, and I'm wondering if we want to have a meeting of council before we go to UBCM. So that's we're back from holidays. The 7th would be the first Monday, and then there's UBCM the next week, and then we've got a committee of the whole meeting on the 21st and a regular meeting on the 28th. So, you know, this works, but I'm wondering if we want to have a meeting before UBCM.
Right, so on something like September 8th, then on the Tuesday, that would fall
Is-
right after Labor Day.
yeah.
I believe.
Is the 7th a holiday or the 1st?
Looks like the 7th this year.
First Monday in September.
Okay. So yeah, the 8th.
Okay. So because we haven't seconded it yet, so we've got the initial motion and Councillor Morris, maybe we'll go back to you. I have to hold an inaugural meeting on November 2nd, first regular council meeting of the new term, November 9th, and then the addition of a regular council meeting on September 8th.
I'm with me.
That's okay. So
Yes.
before we go to a seconder, because we can still
Okay,
work the main motion, I'll go over to you, Councillor Fest.
thank you. I'm just concerned about September the 8th for a regular council meeting. Because that's the day after the long weekend. And in my experience, I don't think any members of the public are ready to come to meetings yet. They're getting their kids to school, that kind of thing. And if we hold a meeting on September the 8th, maybe it could be just a committee of the whole or something less formal than a regular council meeting. Because of the work that staff would have to do to make it a regular council meeting. I don't know. It just seemed things are pretty quiet then. And I don't know if members of the public would be tuned in.
Okay.
I guess. the
If I may,
suggestion- Yeah.
Yes, Councillor
okay.
Getty.
if the issue for me was whether or not we wanted to get together and talk about the UBCM. So you know, it wouldn't necessarily have to be a regular council meeting or even a committee of the whole. It could be a special meeting where we're just, you know, making sure that everybody's got their assignments and we agree on what we're talking about. Because we won't have a chance to get together before UBCM otherwise.
Yeah, I would lean towards having a either regular or special council meeting on the 8th, given that we won't have met since the 27th of July. And in my experience, there may be emergent issues that council needs to make decisions on, which we can't necessarily do at a committee of the whole. And if we don't offload anything to a meeting on the 8th, the 21st and 28th will be doozies of a meeting.
Somebody needs to second my motion.
Okay, so yes, Councillor Jurgensen.
Oh, I was just willing to make that second.
Wonderful. So we've got the motion from Councillor Morse, seconded by Councillor Jurgensen. The addition of meeting on November 2nd and September 8th. I will call the question. It's all in.
Sorry, can we just clarify meeting on the 2nd and the 8th Are there both regular council meeting, just?
The inaugural meeting would be the eighth, the second, which would just be the
Oh, sorry,
swearing
that's,
in.
that's the November one.
That's November.
Sorry, I thought we were still done with UCP. Okay, thank you.
Okay, so perhaps I'll get a corporate officer just to read that back for clarity.
Yes, so it would just be adding a regular council meeting on September 8th, 2026. The inaugural council meeting on November 2nd, 2026, and a regular council meeting on November 9th, 2026.
And correct me if I'm wrong, we captured the amendment to swap Councillor Saunders and Jurgensen.
Yes, so Councillor Saunders will take acting mayor for April and Councillor Jurgensen will take May.
Been moved and seconded. I'll call the question. All in favor, raise your hand, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, and that carries unanimously.
Just a related question. So-
Yes.
Oh, yeah. So we've got a regular council meeting on the eighth.
Of September.
Yes. Is there another one on the 15th or is there still only going to be two that month?
There's UBCM the week after.
Right.
And then a potential committee of the whole on the 21st.
Okay, and then the 28th.
Regular council meeting.
So it'll just be 3 weeks between council. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, moving on to 12.3. Susan Schlobo regarding proposed water use amendments dated October 29th.
That's not for that.
Sorry, Councilor Fowl.
That's surprising. Okay, I just wondered, do staff respond when there's sort of letters like this come in, or can I respond with some information and does this just sit here and get received?
I can answer that. So our emails to mayor and council are responded to with an auto reply. But if it's an information item, I know this one specifically was in regards to the water conservation bylaw, so it was forwarded to staff to take those comments into consideration.
Right. But, okay, I think I'll probably respond about the watering of fruit gardens and what the guidelines say now. So I'll just recheck. Okay, I just wanted to check that that's okay.
And sorry, my understanding is that if the councillors wish to reply to correspondence like that, it's an individual reply between you
Yeah.
and the residents.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Councillor Getty, followed by Councillor Morse.
Thanks. I needed help remembering what it was that Sue Schlegel was talking about. And in terms, is this a new bylaw that we've discussed recently? I don't have any recollection of there being, anything about gardens and can somebody help and direct me? There's no reference in her letter in terms of what it is that she's referring to.
Yes, I'll turn it over to our CAO.
Yeah, thank you through the mayor. So right now we're doing community consultation on putting some fines behind the water restrictions we currently have. So if you are to be in contravention of a stated water restriction, right now it's I believe it's a verbal warning of some sort that you get. And so the idea is to bring us in line with what happens in our neighboring jurisdictions like Sunshine Coast Regional District, for example, where contraventions of any given water restriction would result in a fine. So this particular resident, I believe, was questioning the approach and wanted to have her opinion on it on the record. So in that case, we would collect the information, it would be sent to bylaw, and it would probably come back forward again when he presents, when Mr. Wood presents that as a final for adoption, like here's what we heard type synopsis of all this stuff. So that's where it's coming from. Does that answer the question?
Follow up, Councillor Getty?
So is there a notice in the newspaper? Is there some survey or some link in terms of what the body of the bylaw suggestion is for the community consultations? What is she reading? And can I read it too?
Through the mayor, I'll defer to perhaps our CFO who might know what the forms of the communication is. I haven't seen it myself. I know he's
All right.
referenced his efforts, so.
Thank you.
All right.
through the mayor to the rest of council. So the bylaw is made available, it's on our website, and then it's been distributed through social media requesting public feedback. I'll have to get back to you to confirm if there was an actual notice published in the newspaper requesting that feedback as well. But we could certainly add that. It'd be another link of communication, but it has gone out extensively on social media
Okay, I'm gonna go by order here.
and through our electronic newsletter distribution.
My recollection is it was in the News from Bowen newsletter. And was a link to the staff report in the bylaw, and it's asking for input. And we haven't had the bylaw come back to us yet. We just gave it first reading, correct?
Just for information, we
Information.
didn't ask for any readings yet.
Yeah, so it's just out there.
Thank you. I'll try to find it.
Thank you. I'll just contact Suzanne and let her know about the different uses for water. I think she's under the question of water for food gardens is different from like question of water for lawns, for example. So I'll respond to some of the things that she might be interested in and point her to different links on the website. Thank you.
Motion to receive. Moved by Councillor Fast, second by Councillor Saunders, all in favor, raise your hand, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And that carries unanimously. Yes, Councillor Jurgensen.
Sorry, was Councillor Getty in favor or opposed? I didn't quite hear that.
Councillor Getty was in favor. Yes. 12.4, Helen Hatchett regarding suspension of Bowen Island Land Conservancy partnering agreement over land expropriation. This is an interesting one. I pulled this after some council discussion that was initiated by Councillor Getty. As well, I have been monitoring conversation with the official community plan steering committee who have been struggling with this letter as well. I don't necessarily find anything offensive about the letter. However, I'll just note that many of its claims and rationale are clearly misinformed and also disingenuous, and it's making equivocation on issues that simply aren't true. And the reason I wanted to pull it and flag it is because I think it seeks to cast the memorandum of understanding that we have with the Bowen Island Conservancy in a negative light. It certainly conflates the role that the Conservancy has on the island with that of some sort of overt landowner relationship that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And given its inflammatory, misleading nature, I'm going to move that it not be received as part of this agenda.
Second.
Seconded by Councillor Wake. Any further discussion on this? Councillor Jurgensen?
It will be in support of the motion.
Councillor Getty?
Yeah, so this came up at the open house that I had on Saturday, and that's why I wrote to everybody in terms of my wanting to pull it from the agenda at the very beginning of the meeting, although that horse is already out of the barn in terms of the agenda being published. But first of all, I have a problem in terms of I have no idea, and I've tried to find out who this person is, and there's nothing in the email to link. I have no idea if this is an actual person or if it's artificial intelligence or some other thing. There's no address. There's nothing that links it to Bowen Island. And I thought that we have in the past questioned, and I think very recently with respect to the Southside Owners Association that they were sending letters and we asked to know who they were. So I think that if we don't have a policy, we should think about having a policy in terms of having some identification of people, whether or not they are Bowen residents or not, because I think it makes a difference in terms of someone that has an interest in the island or somebody who is not and is complaining. And I think that, when we set it up in terms of the admonishment that you give to everybody that we're trying to get a respectful tone, and our EDI policy in terms of, trying to get people to be have conversations. There may be some points in here that, you know, are worth discussing and worth thinking about, but it's layered in with a whole lot of anger and a whole lot of oh, you know, it's like poking a bear in a cage kind of thing. It's trying to bait us, and a lot of it is misinformation and quite incorrect, and it's disrespectful of the Conservancy and by extension us and our relationship with the Conservancy and our MOU. So, you know, I think that we need to figure out um, not just because it's offensive with respect to how the content is presented, but some of the content is quite wrong. And I think that if we endorse this in any way and you know, get into any kind of um, a dialogue, first of all, I think we should ask this person to you know, rewrite the letter in a tone that isn't as doesn't make anybody feel that they have to defend themselves necessarily in terms of some of the real anger that is projected. But you know, if we're going to try and work through whatever the issues are, whether or not they're real or whether or not it's you know, somebody else's conspiracy theory, I think that we need to set the tone, and I think we need to do that knowing that we're, you know, who this person is and what their interests are and where they're coming from. That would help have a conversation with somebody. You know, if this is a somebody that owned lands on the you know, she keeps talking about a waterfront property and everything. And if that's the case, then, you know, our agreements with the Conservancy are not uh I don't think focusing on waterfront properties, water catchment areas, but not, you know, we've got nothing in terms of the most wealthy people or the most expensive properties in our tax base and all the rest of it that she suggests. And you know, I think that it's I agree with you that it needs to be pulled. I think that we have to be very careful in terms of putting this into our agenda in the first place. And I would think that we should have some sort of a policy around that so that we're not disseminating it and aiding and abetting with the circulation of this kind of misinformation. So I feel quite um, strongly in terms of knowing who a person is and who I'm having a conversation with and what their connection to Bowen is. I think that that helps in terms of both relaxing some of the concerns and dealing with my understanding of what you know, I may accept as legitimate and other things that I want to argue that are incorrect. So if there's some way that we can help staff so that none of us actually have to, or not the bulk of us have to read all of this kind of stuff in preparation for a meeting. And, you know, it doesn't get generated, it doesn't get circulated in terms of the whole community, in terms of people being upset, showing up at the open house and wondering just who this person is and why this anger. So, yeah, if we can't pull it from the agenda in the first place, then yeah, I'm definitely in favor of pulling it now.
Thank you, Councillor Getty. Councillor Saunders, followed by Councillor Pass.
Thank you to the chair. I'm in support of this motion, but almost entirely on the argument that Councillor Getty just made is we should know. Like, I'm not a fan of anonymity when you're trying to make a case, no matter how well or how poorly you want to make the case. The content of it is, I agree with the comments that have been made here. It's disrespectful, it's angry. We've had a lot of disrespectful and angry over the past 3 years, and I'm sure councils before that face the same thing. So that doesn't disturb me as much as the fact that who is this? And you know, there are signs, there are indicators in that letter of artificial unintelligence being involved here to some degree. I don't know if that's necessarily the case, but there's certainly clues in there that indicate such. I don't think this thing rises to the level of inciting violence or anything like that. So I'm happy if somebody's willing to put a face to their name to hear what they've got to say, even if I 100% disagree with that. But in this case, that isn't the case. So I support the motion to pull this from the agenda. I'd also agree 100% with Councillor Getty's comment about, we really should have a policy about this that we can discuss and come to terms with over the next, couple of meetings or whatever it takes. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Saunders. Councilor Fast.
Thank you. Yeah, I also support the motion. I like Councillor Getty's ideas about, we need to know that at least their connection to the island, even if we don't know their street address. Maybe they grew up here or something, or maybe they aren't a real person. Maybe this is written by a committee, who knows? I just think we should know. And my question for the corporate officer is, what does our policy say now about accepting letters? Does it say they have to provide an address? And if it does, can we reassure people that that's for verification purposes only and that staff could redact the address? Because not everybody is comfortable putting their home address out or their personal address out to the digital world for various reasons. So if you could let me know.
Yes, through the chair, the current correspondence policy that's in force indicates that a writer is any person writing to the Bowen Island Municipal Council. And there are no provisions in that policy for verification of address or identity or humanity. But we could certainly, staff could certainly take a look at that policy and make revisions for council's consideration at a later date, taking into account the discussion that took place here today.
Thank you. I would like to move that motion.
We
But we still have this other one on the floor. I don't.
Yeah.
And I support this. I was at the Vancouver Island Economic Summit the other week. And this whole question of AI and people applying for things and filling up online forms and all the other anyway, businesses and local governments are having trouble with this question of, is it a person already? And so I think it would be great if, so also I'll draft something while we're working on the regular motion.
Councilor Morris, did you your hand up?
Yeah, well, I was just looking at the correspondence policy and I guess I have misread it all these years. Because the second sentence says the writer's correspondence included in this are for public record. And then it goes on to say the writer's name and street, not including house or apartment number, are relevant to council's consideration of the matter and will be disclosed through this process. So I always took that to mean you had to have your address in there. So because we don't know who this person is and given what we were asking for from the South Bowen group, I think it's appropriate to from the agenda.
Councilor Wakefield by Councilor Jurgensen, and then I've got some comments at the end.
Just to clarify, I thought the motion was not to receive the letter.
That's correct.
But we're talking about pulling it from the agenda, which it's too late to do because it's already there.
Yep.
So just wanted to clarify.
Yeah, I just meant not received.
Councilor Jurgensen.
I first of all, support Councillor Getty's position on needing stronger teeth in policy for avoiding this in future. I do have a question through the chair for regarding that line that Councillor Morris just mentioned in the current policy about the street being disclosed, and I assume that's in the case of letters received in those 100-meter to 300-meter send outs that happen when development happens. And I would just like to get some clarity if that's the intent of that part of the policy.
I'll look to our corporate officer to clarify.
Through the chair, yes, I believe that's part of the intent, although that is included in our development procedures policy as well, the 100-meter notification radius. I think the intent of that being stated in this correspondence policy was that if someone does include any personal information, the only piece that we don't redact is the street, so that council has an idea of the person's residence, whether it relates to the item that's on the agenda or that they're writing about.
Thank you.
Yeah, clearly I'm in favor of not receiving it. I think it's worth commenting on some of the rationales to how this made it to our agenda in the first place. One is We did have a conversation about this during agenda planning. And you know, the feelings that I had at the time are that becoming the police people of tone is a very difficult thing and also a bit of a slippery slope. And in terms of this letter, I've certainly read more passionate and more rude letters that have come through that have also been based on information that we've published just fine and haven't sort of generated this level of discussion. To me, it seems one of the hinging issues with this letter is that we can't confirm an identity. And I would submit that I don't necessarily feel that that's such a bad thing. And I don't necessarily know if it's appropriate or needed for a municipality to go down the road as a government entity in an effort to confirm ID and then confirm residency, and then as a result, deciding whether or not somebody's speech can be included on the agenda or not. For me, I believe that the process is working as it should. There's a letter that was submitted to us containing commentary on a relationship that we have with a nonprofit organization in the community that does good, that does strong work. And the letter is passionate and certainly conflated a lot of issues and has based its assumptions on ill-formed logic in other areas. But I don't know if that rises to the point of needing to curtail it simply because we don't know the person. We might find that happens if we get a letter from a high school student, for example. We're unable to confirm the identity or confirm the address of that person. Or, maybe there is a business interest off island, or somebody's moved recently and isn't on the voters list. And I think it's a difficult position to start enforcing that. And then on top of that, getting to a policing of tone, because that can be interpreted by different administrations and different councils in different ways. So my belief is that we keep these things on the agenda, we give them the light of day, we give them sunlight, we handle them in constructive ways. And if we don't want to receive them, we just don't receive them. And that's part of the process. We call out misinformation as we see it. We call out disinformation as we see it. We call out untruths as we see it. And we just move on and conduct our business from there. With that, I'll call the question on the letter not to receive. All in favor, raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Aye, and that carries unanimously. Councillor Fast.
Thank you. I have drafted another motion. And now I don't know if this is the time for that, but basically because we're talking about it, I move that Bowen Island Council request staff to amend the correspondence policy to require information that can be verified as to identity and connection to Bowen Island. And maybe identity could be personhood. No, that's fine. Anyway, that's what I know.
By Councillor Fast, seconded by Councillor Getty. Yes, over to you, Councillor Fast, to motivate.
Thank you. Just to speak to my motion, I take your point, and I think this conversation is part of the process. And however, I'm concerned about AI and its impact in terms of letters and its impact that we've already seen through, and by we, I mean, sorry, that's already been scientifically studied through in social media, and its divisive nature and its ability to create misunderstandings that affect the democratic process. And so that's where I'd just like to start with this request for staff, and we'll see what they come back with in terms of amending the correspondence policy. And perhaps in there, it could can I modify it to include the word including to require information that can be verified. And then staff can give us any other suggestions as well. Maybe it's too early. I don't know.
Maybe we'll take that rewording as a amendment by unanimous consent. Is there any objection just to that change of one word. I don't think it meaningfully changes the motion itself. Not seeing any objections, so we'll carry that amendment by unanimous consent. And maybe just for clarity, can I have the corporate officer read back the motion as stated?
I have that council direct staff to amend the correspondence policy, including to require information that can be verified as to identity and or connection to Bowen Island.
Okay, further discussion, Councillor Saunders, followed by Councillor Morris and Councillor Jurgensen.
I kind of swayed by the argument, even though I don't like anonymity. When stating opinions, I'm a little bit swayed by the mayor's previous argument. Having said that, if we are going to even consider amending the policy, I don't think connection to Bowen Island is that necessarily relevant. I'd be more interested in the anonymity piece, but connection to Bowen Island, we can have I have opinions about Toronto. They might not want to hear them, but Ottawa, in fact, is worse. But in any event, yeah, as the discussion goes forward, and if we do end up requesting staff to amend this, if this motion passes, then I would want to have that discussion with staff and with the group. I'm not going to support the motion for that reason.
Councillor Morris.
Well, I sort of got similar comment. We already allow in 3.8 anonymous correspondence. So I don't want to say so specific in what we're amending, because I think maybe the whole policy there's more than one section. The whole policy needs to be reviewed. So I could support a motion to ask staff to review the correspondence policy and provide recommendations to council in light of the comments made today at this meeting, but I can't support the motion the way it's written.
Okay. I'm going to let you jump in a minute because I do have a process that can handle for this. Over to you, Councillor Jurgensen.
Similar to Councillor Saunders, I think your argument, Chair, makes some very good points. I just wanted to speak more to AI and its use. Definitely something we need to be aware of and so forth, but I don't think it's really a tool that can do something that a human couldn't already do on their own. If somebody was intent on spreading this information, they easily could. I think that is not something that we can say the tool is responsible for. Presumably, whoever's sending it is, if they are using AI, is reading it over beforehand, and it's like with any fact checking, is the responsibility of the letter writer to know that the facts are correct or incorrect. And I would further offer that in the case of certain disabilities, AI has actually been used as a tool to help people actually shape a response that would be acceptable at a council table from fragmented thoughts and so forth. So it does have its place, but again, there's a person conducting the AI behind the scenes, not it spontaneously doing it on its own as its own entity. There's somebody saying they're putting in prompts and getting what they need out of it, want out of it, and a determined person could write something just as inflammatory without it.
Councillor Jurgensen. Councillor Getty.
I'm in favor of the motion, and I would like to golf it over to staff and have them have a look at it, come up with some suggestions, and that we schedule some time for a much fuller conversation. I feel quite strongly, but it might just be because of the content of this letter and the way that it's worded. I take your comments, and it's, something that I will think about, but I wouldn't like this to go away. I would like to I don't have the correspondence bylaw in front of me. I'd like to have staff look at it. I feel badly in terms of them, receiving correspondence like this and wondering what to do with it in terms of our agenda. And if we can help sort that out, I think that would be helpful. And, it might be helpful in terms of setting the agenda as well, so that, if we are going to respond to this in any way, this kind of thing, there's a long list of convoluted conspiracy kinds of arguments that would be difficult to deal with. So if we get a letter like this like this one or in the future, and we want to try and respond to it in some sort of sensible way, then in terms of our perspective, then I think that we almost have a responsibility to do that so that it's the the content of the letter doesn't just stand on its own. So I would like to have input from the staff in terms of both the correspondence bylaw and any suggestions that they might have in terms of helping sort this kind of thing out. I do feel strongly about the anonymity, and I think that if that exists in some way in the correspondence bylaw, then, I'd like to know whether or not it's certain circumstances. So if somebody wants to protect themselves from, some debate that's raging in the community as opposed to, and we allow that in some way. But, we have, I believe, recently done that with respect to, some correspondence that came in. And, we can handle that. But, just out there, with all of this negativity, I think we need to be able to respond better to it. So I'm in favor.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Getty. I will be making a referral motion to refer this back to staff in light of item 8.2 that we have on our agenda, where we are going to be looking later in this meeting to direct staff to review, update, and develop council policy and administrative directives, in which the correspondence policy is part of that. So the desire to have staff hear our feedback and bring it back to us, and I believe that this can be done as part of the policy and administrative directive review. And I believe staff has heard fairly clearly from council some of the considerations that they'd like in that correspondence policy.
Okay, fair enough.
So with that, so I'll make a motion to refer, a simple motion to refer this motion to staff. Seconded by Council Morris. Any discussion on the motion to refer? Not seeing any, I'll call the question. All in favor, raise your hand, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And that carries unanimously. Councillor Jurgensen.
Point of order, don't we have a open motion on the floor from Councillor Fast?
No, that motion was just referred to staff.
Oh, okay.
So on a main motion, you can make motions to refer, to postpone, or to do specific things with those motions.
Thank you.
So that motion will go back to staff. Moving on to Councillor Getty 12.6 regarding Honorable Jody Wickens, Minister of Children and Family Development, regarding Adoption and Permanency Awareness Month dated October 31st, 2025. You are muted, Councillor Getty.
There. I just wanted to highlight this. So there are several families on Bowen Island with foster and adopted children, and they are, to everyone that I know, of all those that I know, they're doing incredibly well, and the kids are benefiting fully, I think, from being on Bowen Island, but also being in homes and being with people. So I appreciate this letter from the minister, and I think that there's lots to celebrate. So I just wanted to highlight it and bring it out as part of the agenda. It's a nice positive note after that last one in particular, but yeah, it's there's some good things happening on Bowen with kids.
Thank you, Councillor Getty. Councillor Fast.
I move to receive the letter.
Okay, moved by Councillor Fast, seconded by Councillor Ferguson. Not seeing any further discussion. All in favor, raise your hand, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? And that carries unanimously. And so concludes our marathon consent agenda. Moving on to section 7, bylaw 7.1, building bylaw amendment. We have Daniel Martin, our manager of planning and development, joining us here today.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So I'm here today with the next round of our building bylaw amendment bylaw. So council gave first reading to this bylaw in October 10th meeting. And since then, we've made a few amendments, one of which of note, and the rest more procedural or more sort of correcting mistakes. So one of the questions we got from council and from the mayor at our first reading was about section 6.5 of our building bylaw, which is where it talks about the right of entry of the building official onto a property. and notes that it's pursuant to section 16 of the community charter. And so we did some review on this question, did some legal review as well. And so what we have as recommended changes essentially is that we would add 2 sections to this clause. So the 6.5.1 is almost identical to our existing 6.5, where it references section 16 of the community charter and says the building official may enter on and into property to ascertain whether the requirements of this bylaw are being met. And then 6.5.2, it talks about may enter on or into a property with the express or implied consent of the owner or occupier. And then 6.5.3 talks about the deemed consent, which is our current understanding of our building bylaw, but saying that in entering into a building permit, somebody is deeming to consent for the building official to enter the property at reasonable times and in a reasonable manner to ascertain whether the requirements of this bylaw are being met. So that understanding that when you're receiving a building permit and you're agreeing to schedule them periodic inspections, you're agreeing to have the building official enter your property at reasonable times and in reasonable manner to follow that. And I'll note the reasonable time and reasonable manner comes up a lot in the community charter and right of entry, and often that's viewed as like that's during office hours, business time. So it's not a midnight inspection on Saturday, but it's during office hours. And then with that too, our review noted section 7.5 currently had a clause in it that would talk about right of entry and talk about an owner has to allow a building official to enter any building or premise at a reasonable time. And this amendment would remove that section from 7.5. It's sort of a weird tacked on clause into a clause that otherwise says the owner has to post a civic address, post the permit. So our review was saying to remove that clause and just rely on that section 6.5. The other amendments that came up that are in the bylaw since first reading are essentially a number of corrections in the bylaw. And then since our publication of this agenda, I've received more correspondence from Councillor Morse just noting some other errors that we would correct prior to adoption. So the staff recommendation is to grant second and third reading to this bylaw as amended. Thank you.
Okay, I'll look to council for any questions.
Judy's got it.
Oh, sorry, you're very small on my screen now. Councillor Getty, over to you.
Thanks. I guess it's to the council, and possibly through the chair to the planner, but on page 2 of your report, you list section 16 of the community charter. And you list the sections that say, in particular, section 16 sub 4 sub B. There's no mention of that in our bylaw. Must take reasonable steps to advise the owner or occupier before entering the property. Now, I understand that that has been a bone of contention, both with our bylaw officers and with certainly a lot of the bylaw problems that we've got with the trust, and that it is something that I don't know, there seems to be a desire to, or a feeling that it's a necessity to be able to drop in any time and not allow the owner to have any preparation or any knowledge that there's going to be an inspection. And I think that's potentially, certainly where the trust is having the most problems, and potentially where we could have problems, or there have been problems in the past. So while we meet all the other requirements of section 16, and we've taken very good care with respect to 16 sub 4 sub A, only exercise authority at reasonable times in a reasonable manner, we've completely ignored, and there's no mention of must take reasonable steps to advise the owner or occupier before entering the property. So it's not a dwelling, that's a completely different thing. But this is just wandering onto the property to have a look at where things are, where holes are being dug or where buildings are going up, and whether or not there's, been the change in work since the last inspection. So I think we ignore that section at our peril. We're supposed to follow 16, and we do by and large, but I don't see any reflection of 16 sub 4 sub B in terms of notifying the owner or occupier. I think that's a problem. That's not a question.
Thank you, Councillor Getty. Looking for other questions or comments, Councillor Wake.
I would just concur with Councillor Getty's comments. I think the owner should be made aware. Owner doesn't have to be there, but should be aware that somebody's for the purposes of inspection. I think that it just becomes a flag for people. Well, wait a minute, how come it's a surprise visit? And I wasn't, able to have somebody there that could respond to any concerns.
I'm curious, based on those comments, and it's come up before, whether that's something that operationally is possible within the building department. And part of the balance that I seek to strike is that I think the language of this current bylaw makes more sense in that it explicitly states that if you've got a building permit, municipality has a right to come onto your property and inspect. The concern that I have on Bowen Island is, given that we have so much residential property and so many of these building permits are folks that are renovating their homes, et cetera, like it's happening on residential lots. It's different than a multi-unit development in the city where you've got a building office and inspectors just coming in like as part of their daily job. Whereas I think some of the complaints that we've received are really from folks that are at home, they've got their kids at home, and then we have a municipal official showing up onto their land unannounced. And not saying that a building official needs to make an appointment with the resident or anything like that, but is it possible operationally, or does it need to be in bylaw that we're providing residents just with a heads up that, hey, like, I'm expecting to be on your property between 9 and 5 tomorrow or the day after?
The chair, I mean, I think the answer is probably yes. Like, if that's the desire, if that's the direction the council wants to see, then that's like a change to our policy, or, in our bylaw, if that's the approach, knowing that it may lead to some, I guess, like time delays. Like, I would say most often this would come up if the building official is going to Hood Point for a scheduled inspection that somebody's called for and knows that there's one other construction project in Hood Point, and it may be the only time that month they go to Hood Point. They may stop at the other place to say, to sort of check on their progress. And I mean, the other time that it comes up most often, I would say, is that the inspector is driving by and notes that something is happening on a permit that they've issued that they know is contrary to the permit they've issued, or they'll see somebody pouring and think, oh wait, we issued that permit, but they never called for an inspection. I'm going to go look. And in those cases, that's the bigger delay, because then it means, okay, well, they're going to come home, they're going to come back to the office, they're going to call them, but it may not be then until the next day, or the couple of days after that they're back on site and back out that direction. So, but if that's the council desire, the policy to set, then that I have no problem with, changing our practices in that way, that we just simply don't do it, knowing that at times it may lead to delay in steps taken.
Councillor Getty, followed by Councillor Fast.
Can't hear you.
You're on mute, Councillor Getty.
If you get some sort of a notification from a neighbor, or somehow or other you've realized that there's a pour going on and there hasn't been an inspection, then the reasonable steps to advise the owner is to make the phone call. And I just heard yesterday that such and such was going on, and I'm going to be coming by, and there's some sort of that's going to be reasonable in those circumstances. So not everything is going to be an emergency, and not everything is going to be, where it doesn't necessarily mean there's going to be a delay. It's like I'm going out to do a scheduled inspection, an electrical inspection on this and such a place, and I'm going to drop by yours on the way back. And you leave a message that somebody has to give you a phone number where they can accept messages. And, if it's a tenant, then, whoever's going to be there so that you're not just dropping in. That's the point, I think, that is upsetting to people. So I don't see it as delaying or complicating. It's just it is complicating, I suppose, and it's one more step. You have to make an effort to tell people that it looks like tomorrow I'm going to be dropping in, or next day, or whatever.
Thank you, Councillor Getty. Councillor Fast.
Thank you. I don't know, I don't have people talking to me about these kinds of issues, but it occurs to me that seeing a pour in progress, and if I understand correctly, means that everything's going to get covered up and you can't do a proper inspection. It seems to me that that's different from dropping in on your way by because you're out in that neck of the woods. And that when a pour is happening, and as you described, when there was supposed to be an inspection before and you know that, or whenever a pour is happening, I think it makes sense to stop in and check. Even if you're calling from the car before you open the door to get out, you could give notice. But I think those two things are different. The person in the house with little kids trying to give them lunch and being interrupted is different from somebody actively working on an aspect of construction that could make inspection difficult. I mean, the purpose of all this is that it's safe for the future, right? And that it's well built, and that it's not to cause future owners problems and all this. This is why we have the building bylaw. So I support upholding our bylaws through accurate and complete inspections. And so maybe we can split some of the differences apart in the terms of reasonable times and in a reasonable manner. Is different for an active concrete pour versus something that could wait. I don't know what could be done there, or wording, I don't know. But it seems to me they're two different things.
Councillor
Um, with respect, I think we're tending towards splitting hairs here and making it even more complicated. If it's as simple as leaving a phone message, as if you see something happening, we do have the fallback that it's already in the bylaw that if you cover up something without having it inspected, you'll have to open it up again. And that may be really difficult if what you're opening up again is concrete, but we do have that fallback. So I just think it's a courtesy so that people in the example, where they're around home doing something or other and they just get surprised. And we've had some of those episodes. I don't know. I think some just needs to be a phone call. Leave a message.
There's a couple of questions I'd like to ask related to a legal opinion that we received on this about a year ago. So I want to make a motion that we move into a closed meeting under section 91I of the community charter. Can I have a seconder for that motion? Seconded by Councillor Saunders. I'm not seeing any further discussion. All in favor of moving into a closed meeting under section I, raise your hand. That carries unanimously. We'll just give a moment for the public to be cleared from the room.